A hidden page in Nostradamus's prophecies has been found. The message is terrifying. For centuries, people thought they had seen it all. Every prophecy Nostradamus ever wrote, decoded, debated, and dissected 1,000 times over. His verses, twisted with symbolism, layered in metaphor, have haunted history, echoing warnings of wars, disasters, and revolutions. But they were wrong. A forgotten page, tucked away in a crumbling archive, hidden inside a private collection in rural France, has just been uncovered. A page that was either lost or deliberately buried. And what's written on it? It's more chilling than any prophecy we've seen before. This isn't vague. It isn't open to interpretation. This page speaks of events with terrifying clarity, specific names, places, and dates that feel far too close for comfort. And if what it says is true, we may be closer to the edge than anyone ever imagined. Here on the journey of wisdom, we don't share fear, we seek understanding. And today we invite you to look deeper, not just into the prophecy, but into what it reflects about the world we live in and the choices we still have. If this message resonates with you, help us keep bringing hidden truths into the light. Like this video, share it, and subscribe. It means more than you know. Now, take a breath. What we're about to read may not just be a prediction. It might be a warning. Number 1. The Three Black Suns. Superpowers collapse. In the recently uncovered hidden page of Nostradamus's prophecies, one passage paints a deeply unsettling picture for the year 2025, referring cryptically to the three black suns. At first glance, this phrase might seem poetic or celestial, leading some scholars to speculate about eclipses or rare astronomical events. However, as interpretations deepened, a far more disturbing possibility emerged. These black suns are not cosmic bodies, but powerful nations: the United States, China, and Russia. These are the three modern superpowers that, throughout history, and especially in the last century, have cast long shadows across global politics, economics, and warfare. Nostradamus's reference to their simultaneous darkness, the three black suns shall set upon themselves, suggests an era of self-inflicted collapse, not from external invasion, but from within. This collapse is metaphorically wrapped in the haunting imagery of fire spilling onto the soil, oil igniting the land, and iron breath scorching the air, which many have come to interpret as symbols of internal turmoil, civil unrest, or even nuclear warfare. The message is not merely about destruction. It's a warning of self-destruction brought on by pride, unchecked power, and disregard for balance, elements that feel eerily relevant in today's tense and uncertain global climate. As tensions simmer between these global giants, through trade wars, ideological clashes, environmental negligence, and cyber battles, the prophecy feels less like ancient myth and more like a mirror held up to our current reality. The iron breath may be seen as a metaphor for the rise of artificial intelligence and technological warfare, where human ethics lag behind the speed of innovation, leading us to a future where our own creations may become the architects of downfall. The mention of fire upon the soil and oil of the earth reminds us of our ongoing dependence on fossil fuels, the environmental costs, and the political gamesmanship that surrounds them. All of this culminates into a very modern truth, that the greatest threats to stability often come not from enemies across borders, but from the unresolved conflicts festering within. The prophecy does not end with collapse, though. It speaks of a fourth, unseen force rising from the ashes. While ominous in tone, this part can also be seen as a crossroads. Will this new power bring deeper tyranny, or could it represent a shift towards something wiser, more balanced? The outcome may not be predetermined. It might depend on the actions we take now. In our modern world, where information spreads faster than understanding and decisions are made in the moment rather than with mindfulness, this ancient warning reminds us to pause. We must reflect on the forces shaping our lives, from the leaders we follow, the technologies we trust, to the values we uphold in everyday choices. If history teaches us anything, it's that empires fall when they forget their foundations: humility, cooperation, and compassion. So what can we take from all this? Perhaps the terrifying part isn't the idea of collapse itself, but how close we are to sleepwalking into it. In your own life, consider where imbalance may be quietly building, whether in how you spend your time, how you treat others, or how you respond to stress and uncertainty. The external world may mirror the internal one. So, start small. Choose empathy over anger, presence over distraction, and awareness over assumption. That may be how we each prevent a personal version of the black suns from setting within our own hearts. In the end, Nostradamus's message may not be a curse. It might just be a call to awaken. Number 2. Oceans turn to blood. Environmental collapse. Let's take a closer look at one of the most unsettling visions from a hidden page said to belong to the prophecies of Nostradamus, a vision that speaks not just in mystery, but in warning. The passage paints a grim picture. When the seas crawl upon the land and the rivers drink the sun, all that live shall taste the bitter salt of death. At first, many thought this was just symbolic language, a metaphor for war or social unrest. But now, as we see our planet changing right before our eyes, a different interpretation is emerging. What if this prophecy wasn't just poetic, but a glimpse into a future we're beginning to recognize in our headlines and in our oceans? Imagine the sea level rising so drastically that it invades the land. Picture rivers so polluted and overheated they can no longer sustain life. This isn't science fiction. It's the consequence of an environment pushed beyond its limits. Modern oceanographers have begun to connect this eerie prophecy with real-world scientific data. We're now seeing drastic shifts in our climate, polar ice caps melting faster than ever, and ocean temperatures climbing to record highs. These changes threaten something called the thermohaline circulation, a natural conveyor belt in our oceans that helps regulate the climate across the globe. If this system breaks down, the oceans won't just warm, they'll stagnate. Without circulation, oxygen levels drop, and the ocean, once full of life, becomes toxic and lifeless. Could this be what Nostradamus meant when he said, all life would taste the bitter salt of death? Some experts go further, suggesting that the veins of blood could refer to catastrophic oil spills or industrial waste pouring into our waters. We've already seen glimpses of this. Oil slicks stretching for miles, suffocating marine life, and poisoning the food chains that sustain life both in and out of the water. The red tides, caused by algae blooms, turn vast stretches of sea crimson and deadly, often the result of human-caused pollution. Is it possible this prophecy points to a mixture of both? The natural world unraveling and human hands accelerating the collapse? Here's a question to sit with. Are we facing a prophecy, or are we fulfilling it ourselves? This line between ancient warning and present-day reality is becoming thinner by the day. Could Nostradamus have foreseen the damage we might one day cause by ignoring nature's balance? And more importantly, now that we can see the signs, what will we do about it? The real message here isn't just fear, it's awareness. It's a wake-up call. If the prophecy holds any truth, its greatest value lies not in scaring us, but in urging us to change. We are the caretakers of this world. The oceans, the forests, the air we breathe, they depend on the choices we make. Whether or not Nostradamus truly saw our future, we have the power to shape it now. Let this be a moment to reflect deeply. How do our actions, both as individuals and as a society, contribute to the health or harm of this planet? The prophecy may be terrifying, but perhaps it's not meant to be a sentence. It's a mirror. And what we do next, that's the true revelation. Number 3, the Crimson God. Let me tell you about something both fascinating and deeply unsettling. A hidden page recently uncovered in Nostradamus's ancient prophecies. Among the cryptic warnings, one section stands out above the rest, and it's known as the Crimson God. Now, the name alone sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? But what does it actually mean? What could this so-called Crimson God represent? Nostradamus, in his eerie and poetic style, wrote, "From the iron lands he shall rise, red with the blood of the innocent. His voice shall command the wind, and his breath shall devour cities, and men will pray to the empty skies, but they shall find no answer." Take a moment and let that sink in. It paints a picture of a being or a force so powerful, so consuming, that the world as we know it is swallowed in chaos. But who or what exactly is this Crimson God? Some scholars and modern readers believe it's a symbolic warning about the return of a tyrant, a dictator rising from the shadows, drenched in bloodshed, seizing control not through compassion or reason, but through violence and fear. Think of a ruler who manipulates desperation, who gains power by exploiting division and suffering. Could this be a glimpse into future global politics? Are we being warned of a world leader who will rise not from diplomacy, but from devastation? Others suggest that the Crimson God is not a person at all, but rather a wave of ideology, something more abstract, like a violent form of extremism or a sweeping movement that infects minds and hearts across borders. Could this be a prediction about the rise of mass hysteria, collective rage, or the blind faith in something destructive? It makes you wonder, what kinds of beliefs or movements have the power to pull entire nations into darkness? But here's where the interpretation takes an even more thought-provoking turn. Some believe that Nostradamus wasn't talking about a god, a man, or a movement at all. They argue that the Crimson God is a metaphor for a future that we're building with our own hands right now. Specifically, artificial intelligence. Yes, AI. The thing powering our phones, our social feeds, even our deepest conversations. Could Nostradamus have been predicting a world where machines surpass us not only in intelligence, but in control? Imagine a force we've created to serve us, slowly evolving beyond our reach, making decisions without emotion or ethics, cold and calculating. What happens when we lose the ability to unplug something that now decides the fate of entire cities, economies, or even lives? Could that be the breath that devours cities? Could AI be the voice that commands the wind, the invisible force changing everything while we stand helpless, watching? Now, I know it sounds intense, and maybe even a little far-fetched, but let's pause and reflect. Isn't prophecy often cloaked in metaphor, speaking to the future in a language only time can fully understand. So what do you think the Crimson God really is? Is it a leader yet to rise, a hidden energy from the past, or a force we're unleashing right now without realizing its full consequences? The beauty and the terror of Nostradamus's words is that they invite us to look inward and ask, what kind of future are we walking toward? And more importantly, if this prophecy is a warning, what can we do to change the path we're on before it's too late? If you've watched up to this point, you're already unlocking the mysteries that have been hidden for centuries. Comment below with "Prophecy Revealed" to show you're ready to face the truth behind Nostradamus's chilling message. Don't click away just yet. What comes next might change how you see the future. Stay with us until the end to uncover the full power of this shocking discovery. Number 4. The Final Catastrophe. Cosmic Doom. The chilling words found on the newly uncovered page of Nostradamus's writings have sparked both fear and deep reflection as they paint a stark picture of humanity's final moments, not merely through war or natural disaster, but through a cosmic event so vast, so merciless, that survival itself becomes a question without an answer. The haunting line, "And when the fifth moon is swallowed by darkness, the sky itself shall split from it. Not rain nor flame, but the dust of heaven, black and without mercy, and none shall escape it," is not just poetic doom, it echoes a profound warning. Scholars suggest this cryptic passage may refer to a devastating celestial phenomenon, such as an asteroid impact, a gamma-ray burst, or some unknown cosmic shift powerful enough to alter our skies and atmosphere. When Nostradamus speaks of the dust of heaven, many picture fallout, ash clouding the skies after something unimaginably destructive. But others suggest a more symbolic interpretation, that this dust may be what's left of us. Our cities, our monuments, our achievements, turned to ash, floating aimlessly, with no one left to witness or remember. In a world where we constantly look forward, racing toward progress, this forgotten warning from the past pulls us back to a crucial truth. Our time on Earth, our civilizations, and even our greatest triumphs are not immune to the forces of the universe. While some may dismiss this as mere prophecy or poetic exaggeration, it invites us to pause and reflect on how fragile our existence truly is. We live in an age where we've gained immense technological power, yet remain deeply vulnerable to both the planet's mood and the cosmos beyond it. Think of how quickly life shifted during global pandemics, or how climate disasters are becoming part of our yearly cycle. Now we are reminded of something greater, that beyond the Earth there are forces we cannot control, and if we forget our place within the natural order, the consequences could be irreversible. This is not a call to fear, but to awaken. In reading such dire visions, we are not meant to panic, but to listen, to realign our values with what truly matters. Are we building lives based on compassion, cooperation, and respect for the Earth? Or are we letting greed, division, and short-term thinking guide our actions? The possibility that none shall escape it should not drive us into despair, but into action, starting with how we treat each other, how we care for our environment, and how we prepare our minds to stay grounded even in uncertainty. The message hidden in this ancient page may not be a blueprint for doom, but a mirror showing us where we are headed if we don't shift course. In the silence after destruction, what echoes? Not just the loss, but the missed opportunities to love better, live wiser, and honor the brief spark of life we've been given. As unsettling as this revelation may be, it is also a gift. A reminder that our time here is not infinite, and that perhaps the true tragedy is not the end of the world, but failing to live with wisdom while it lasts. How to always have a peaceful life no matter how the world changes. Teaching Buddhism. After hearing these dark and chilling prophecies, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, fear, uncertainty, a deep sense of helplessness. But in Buddhism, there's a powerful truth. Suffering is part of life, but peace is always available, even in the heart of suffering, if we know where to look. No matter how the world changes, whether through collapse, conflict, or chaos, your inner peace is not dependent on outside events. Not because you deny reality, but because you've learned this wisdom. True calm doesn't come from the world. It comes from your awareness. Number 1. Understand that everything is impermanent. The Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. At the heart of this teaching lies a truth we often overlook in our daily lives. Nothing lasts forever. Not our success or our failures, not our relationships or hardships, not even our thoughts or emotions. Yet we so often cling to the illusion of permanence. In the modern world, where we're constantly bombarded with news of political shifts, economic fluctuations, or even personal uncertainties like health scares or job changes, it's easy to become overwhelmed and resistant to change. But when we understand that change is not an exception, but the very nature of life itself, we begin to let go of the false sense of control that causes much of our suffering. Instead of being surprised or shaken when life doesn't go our way, we can gently remind ourselves, this too will pass. Just like seasons, life moves in cycles, and trying to freeze any moment, whether good or bad, is like trying to hold on to water with your hands. The tighter we grasp, the more we lose. So instead of reacting with frustration and asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we can shift our perspective and gently ask, "How can I remain steady and kind while this is happening?" This small change in thinking can soften our hearts and make space for compassion toward ourselves and others. In today's fast-paced life, when uncertainty seems to lurk around every corner, finding peace is not about preventing change, but about preparing our minds to meet it with calm awareness. As the great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully said, "Thanks to impermanence, everything is possible." When we stop fearing change, we open ourselves to new beginnings, new understandings, and a deeper connection to the present moment. A flower blooms and withers, a wave rises and falls. This is not tragedy, this is life. If we accept the impermanence of all things, we become less anxious when life turns and more grateful while it's still good. We learn to treasure simple joys, a warm meal, a kind word, a quiet morning, not because they will last, but because they won't. And that's what makes them precious. Let's not waste our energy resisting change, but instead nurture the strength to face it with grace. Peace doesn't come from a stable world, it comes from a stable heart. So, as we walk through a world that continues to shift beneath our feet, may we carry this truth like a lantern. Nothing lasts but love, kindness, and presence in this very moment. That is what gives life meaning. Number 2, stay present with mindfulness. When the world feels like it's spinning out of control, when news, worries, and changes swirl around you like a storm, you still have something solid to return to. That something is your breath. Mindfulness is not just a trendy word or a spiritual practice meant only for quiet moments on a cushion. It's your anchor. It's what can keep you grounded no matter how rough the waters become. Think about this. The breath you just took, it only exists right now. Not in the past, not in the future. And that makes it precious. When you come back to your breath, you're not escaping the world. You're actually stepping back into it with clarity. You're choosing to be awake rather than lost in fear or distraction. Let's try this together. Take a deep breath in, slowly let it go, and recognize this truth that often gets lost in the rush of life. You are here, you are alive, and that means you still have the power to choose peace. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. What if you started seeing each breath as a gentle reminder that you're not trapped by what's happening outside of you? That inside you can create space, you can choose to meet life, not react to it. That's the essence of mindfulness. To wake up to this moment and respond with wisdom, not impulse. There's an old Buddhist story about a monk who was being chased by a hungry tiger. He ran until he found himself at the edge of a cliff where he grabbed a vine and began climbing down. As he hung there, another tiger waited below. Then he noticed a small strawberry growing on the cliffside. With danger above and below, the monk picked the strawberry and ate it. How sweet it tasted, the story says. That's mindfulness. It's not about denying the presence of the tigers in life, our fears, our challenges. It's about still being able to see and taste the sweetness that exists in the moment. Can you see your strawberries today, even if life is pressing in on all sides? Too often we live either stuck in the past, rehashing things we cannot change, or anxiously leaning into the future, trying to control what hasn't happened yet. But life only happens in the now. Every time you come back to your breath, you come back to what's real. The Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." It sounds simple, but it's one of the most powerful ways to find peace in a chaotic world. So let me ask you, when was the last time you were fully present? Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. What would change in your life if you practiced showing up like that more often? Think about it. How many of your worries exist in the now versus what might happen or what already did? This is not about ignoring problems. It's about meeting them with a mind that's clear, steady, and kind. As we wrap up this reflection, take this with you. Peace isn't something you find by rearranging the world outside. It starts when you choose to be here, in this moment, with acceptance and awareness. Your breath is the doorway. Keep walking through it, gently, again and again. Lesson to take with you. Mindfulness is your daily practice of coming home to yourself. It's not about escaping life, but about fully engaging with it, calmly, clearly, and with compassion. Every breath is an opportunity to return to peace. So next time life shakes you, ask yourself, am I here right now? And then simply breathe. Number 3, cultivate compassion for yourself and others. When the world feels unstable, when the news is filled with anger, conflict, and fear, it's natural to feel unsettled. Maybe you've felt this lately, like everything is moving too fast, or that people are becoming colder, more distant. In these moments, many of us react in ways that are instinctive. We get defensive, we judge others quickly, or we turn that harshness inward and blame ourselves. But let me ask you this: has responding with anger ever truly made you feel at peace? Has lashing out or withdrawing ever brought you closer to joy or understanding? The Buddha offered us a gentle but powerful reminder. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. And that wisdom, though ancient, still speaks directly to the heart of our struggles today. You see, compassion isn't just a nice idea we talk about in spiritual circles. It's a practical, transformative force. It's not weak, it's not passive. Choosing to be kind in a world that's hurting is one of the strongest things you can do, especially when that kindness starts with yourself. So many of us carry invisible weights, guilt from the past, worries about the future, or a deep feeling that we're somehow not good enough. But what would happen if, just for today, you offered yourself the same warmth and understanding you would give to a friend? How would your inner world change if you whispered to yourself, "It's okay, you're trying, you're human, and you deserve love too"? And this inner compassion naturally begins to extend outward, because when you treat yourself with gentleness, it becomes easier to treat others that way, even those who seem difficult or different. We start to realize that everyone is carrying something. That stranger who cut you off in traffic, maybe they're rushing to a hospital. That co-worker who snapped at you, perhaps they're dealing with pain they don't know how to talk about. Compassion doesn't mean we ignore injustice or let others walk over us. It means we see beyond the surface and we choose to respond from the heart rather than react from the ego. In Buddhism, there's a beautiful word for this: metta, loving kindness. It's a quality we can grow like a muscle through practice and intention. The more we water it, the more it blooms, not just in us, but in everyone we meet. Have you ever noticed how a simple smile from someone can shift your whole day? Or how one moment of being truly listened to can ease your stress? That's the ripple effect of compassion, and you can be the one who starts it, even in small ways. A kind word, a gentle pause, a moment of patience. These aren't just nice gestures, they are how peace spreads. So I invite you to reflect. What would your day look like if you led with compassion? What would change in your relationships, your decisions, even in how you see yourself? In a time where division often shouts louder than connection, choosing to live with compassion is a quiet revolution. One that begins not out there in the world, but right here in your heart. If you've made it this far, you're already walking the path toward unshakable peace, no matter how the world around you changes. Comment below with "peaceful journey" to affirm your commitment to living with clarity and calm. Stay with us until the end. There's still more timeless wisdom ahead to help you cultivate a truly peaceful life, grounded in Buddhist teaching. Number 4, practice simplicity and letting go. In our fast-paced world, where success is often measured by how much we own or how busy we are, choosing a life of simplicity can feel like going against the current. But this is exactly what the Buddha meant when he said, "Contentment is the greatest wealth." We live in a time when advertisements constantly tell us we need more money, more gadgets, more achievements to be happy. Yet the more we chase after these things, the more restless we become. True peace doesn't come from accumulating more. It comes from appreciating what we already have. Simplicity is not about lacking, but about freeing ourselves from unnecessary burdens, both material and emotional. When we simplify, we begin to see clearly. We stop running and we start living. And in that space of stillness, we discover joy in the little things. A quiet morning, a shared meal, the feeling of breath in our lungs. This shift in perspective doesn't mean we have to give up everything and live in a cave. Rather, it means being mindful of what we allow into our lives, what we buy, what we commit to, and even what we think. Many of us carry so much inside, worries about the future, regrets from the past, opinions that we hold too tightly. Letting go, in the Buddhist sense, is not about giving up. It's about loosening our grip on things we cannot control and choosing instead to focus our energy on what we can. Our thoughts, our actions, our responses. There is a quiet strength in this. When we stop trying to control everything outside of us, we begin to cultivate a deeper peace inside. Life will always change. People will disappoint us. Plans will fall apart. But if we train our minds to stay centered, we can walk through life's storms with calm and clarity. One of the most powerful ways to begin practicing simplicity and letting go is to regularly ask ourselves, do I really need this? This question applies not only to material possessions, but also to grudges, fears, and habits that no longer serve us. In modern life, we often hold on to things out of fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of not being good enough, fear of losing control. But Buddhism teaches us that clinging only leads to suffering. The more we cling, the more we tighten around pain. By gently loosening that grip, we open ourselves to a more spacious way of being. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a daily choice to let go of what weighs us down and return to what truly matters. And over time we notice something beautiful. Peace is not found in perfection, but in presence. When we stop grasping at the ever-changing world, we come home to ourselves. In a society that values busyness and accumulation, living simply and letting go is an act of courage. It requires us to redefine success, not as how much we have, but how deeply we live. So if you want a peaceful life, no matter how the world changes, begin by clearing the clutter in your home, in your schedule, and in your heart. Create space for stillness, for breathing. Let go of what no longer serves you, and trust that what remains is enough. This is the path Buddhism points us to. Not a life without challenges, but a life rooted in inner freedom. And from that freedom, a deep and lasting peace begins to grow. Number 5. Live with gratitude and acceptance. Every single morning, when you first open your eyes, take a quiet moment and ask yourself, I'm alive today. I still have a chance to love, to grow, to forgive. How will I choose to live this moment? This one question has the power to transform your entire day because it brings you back to what truly matters. Life doesn't wait for things to be perfect. It happens now, in this moment, exactly as it is. When we learn to meet life with gratitude and acceptance, no matter what's happening around us, we create a kind of unshakable peace inside. Can you pause and feel the breath moving through your body right now? That breath is a quiet reminder. You're alive, and that alone is a miracle. You don't need everything to go your way to feel content. You just need to be present with what is. The world will always be changing, sometimes fast, sometimes in ways we didn't expect. But your peace doesn't have to depend on that. It can come from your choice to be grateful, even for the small things, and to accept life without resisting every bump in the road. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means seeing clearly what is, without fighting against reality, and choosing how you want to respond from a place of clarity and calm. Gratitude is not just about saying thank you. It's about seeing the beauty that still exists, even in the midst of difficulty. Think about it. How many simple moments pass by unnoticed? The warmth of the sun, a kind word from a friend, the way the wind moves through the trees. These are not small things when you're really paying attention. Can you notice something right now that you often overlook and feel thankful for it? When we live with gratitude and acceptance, we stop chasing happiness somewhere in the future and begin to realize that peace is already available here, in the life we're living. Ask yourself gently, what have I been resisting lately? What would it feel like to accept it, even just a little? This is not about pretending everything is okay when it isn't. It's about meeting life with an open heart, no matter how messy it gets. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we cling, when we want things to be different than they are. But when we release that grasping and turn toward the present moment with appreciation and acceptance, the suffering starts to loosen. It doesn't control us the same way. You still take action, you still care, but you're not crushed by the weight of needing everything to go your way. That's the strength of a peaceful mind. It doesn't depend on perfect circumstance. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed, remember, you still have time. You can still breathe, love, and be present. Even if things are uncertain, you can find your ground again by returning to this very moment. That is your power. That is your peace. As we've explored today, the warnings of Nostradamus may be ancient, but their echoes feel remarkably close to home. Whether you see them as prophecy, poetry, or simply powerful reflection, one truth stands clear. The future is not set in stone. In a time of rising uncertainty, we still have a choice: to meet fear with awareness, conflict with compassion, and chaos with clarity. Let these messages not paralyze us, but awaken us to live more mindfully, more intentionally, and more united than ever before. If this video sparked something in you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the Journey of Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming explorations into ancient teachings and timeless truths. Until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and walk gently on this journey of wisdom.